Lee Moore, godfather of local sports. Here it is, the Lee Moore locker room and our ribbon cutting ceremony.
Hey, I am totally surprised, shocked. You know, what a neat thing.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Brought some aerosol.
The locker room needs that.
Yeah, the locker room needs that. No, I tell you what, it's great. You know, high school sports, how great a high school, and to be associated like this, and all the old people that'll be watching that remember me had to go back a while.
That's right.
But that's neat, Brian. I thank you.
Officially cut the ribbon to open the Lee Moore locker room.
All right, let's see if I can see. Oh, we
There
got
we
it.
go.
Now we're open. I know last week that someone told me that they saw it. I was out of town, but that's neat.
Yeah. Let's sit down and have a conversation and catch up.
All right, we can do that.
Honored to have Lee Moore, the sports director here from 1971 to late 1989.
Yep.
Here
That's right.
with us, the godfather of local sports, we like to call him. Really, you were one of the pioneers here of local sports in eastern North Carolina, and that's why we're honoring you with this locker room, because of all you did here for almost 20 years. Just tell us about what you're doing. First of all, your thoughts on having this honor.
You know, I heard something the other day. One of the guys out at New River Country Club said, "Hey, I think I saw your name on something," and I think it was a locker room. They said, what part of the locker room? But anyway, I just think it's great to be associated with high school sports. And since I left, I've been involved in golf a lot, both in the developmental golf tours, what became known as the Hooters Tour, and also in working with celebrity golf and coming back to this area, bringing the tour, the Celebrity Players Tour back to Camp Lejeune. And what a great, for me, the last 20 or 30 years have been great to stay in sports.
To stay involved in sports.
That's right.
The local sports scene has changed so much, even in the 25 years I've been doing this, but even take us back to the 1970s when you first got into this deal. I mean, it was film back then, wasn't it?
We didn't have film. We didn't even have a processor back then. Listen, we had to send the film out to Raleigh, to get it processed and then bring it back here. So we hoped everything happened on Friday, so we could show it on Monday, the 2 days we need to listen. And there were so many things that occurred, in the evolution, of coverage and all, but it was fun. There were a lot of great people associated. Yeah.
The way you cover things, just tell me how you even covered. Did you even cover Friday Night Football in the 1970s?
We did. We did cover football. We would show up sometimes. We would have cameras with no film in them, but, you get the idea, right? We had a camera, some kind of a little camera, but the thing about it is when I first came here, Havelock was becoming a power. 1971, they went undefeated for that year, and I remember that so well. Frank Shamilla was a coach. And I recall they only had one touchdown scored against them all year long, and that was Jones Sr. had a guy named Kenny Strayhorn, who became a great player who passed away just recently. But, we were out there. We showed up to the events, and as I say, the football games and the basketball games, and then things got a little better as we had Super 8 film to work with, like spaghetti, trying to do cut that stuff up. And then we saw tape come in. And
that changed the game. That completely changed the game in coverage.
And then we went to live television, and I remember the first time we did live, we were over on the bridge over there going toward James City, and we barely were able to get on the air. I think at that time Jan Bean, I think Gary Dean, they were over there standing on the bridge. But that was so neat to say we're live. Right, outside the studio. Yeah, you're right. Some of your other high school memories or any sports memories that you covered in your 20 years here? Well, the best players that I saw, we had a kid named Mike Jordan that came in with Laney High School back there in the 80s. And the greatest athlete or two that I saw in college, David Thompson, who went to NC State out of Shelby. And then when I went one night to see this kid in Washington, North Carolina, and he was just a man among children. His name was Dominic Wilkins, and saw him, So him, and then in the baseball interest, we had Jimmy Hunter up the road at Hertford, and then we had Gaylord and Jim Perry from over at Williamston. And so it was really neat, to be able to go interview those people, hear their stories and all. But it was fun. I mean, it really was. It was always fun because I think when you work in this business, Brian, there has to be a certain passion associated with it, and,
right.
and you know that, and now to see what's evolved with this show that you do, you know, here, which I think is really great, because back in those days, I mean, we were calling, you know, trying to get the phone numbers and trying to rush out to the set, and we didn't even have teleprompters at first, you know. That was a great thing to get teleprompters here.
Wow.
And some of the kids, you know, that worked here, and I remember the city attorney here in town, Scott Davis, New Bern city attorney, he was one of the kids that worked here, and we had kids doing intern work like Van Denton, who's now the weatherman up in the Greensboro, and we had Ed Piotrowski, who now is down at Channel 15. Some of those kids, and to see people move on, you know, to some of the jobs that they got. But so there were a lot of good people. We had, I think I worked with 18 different news directors and something like 4 different owners of the television stations. So we saw a lot come and go.
And you did, you know, ECU, you were heavily involved with East Carolina University.
It was part of the network from 1974 to 1984, back in the days of Sonny Randall and Pat Dye, you know, that those were, I guess, some of the greatest teams they ever had. The 83 team that lost by 5 points, or they lost a total of 12 points in the 3 Florida teams. They lost to Miami. They lost, and Miami won the national championship that year. They lost to Florida State, I think, by a couple of points. And off of that team, they had something like 15 kids sign pro contracts, either NFL, USFL. And so there were a lot of great athletes to work with. There were a lot of great coaches, and Clarence Stasevich, who was a legend, who was at East Carolina, all through there. And so it was for me.
So many great memories, and I'm happy that I'm friends with you on Facebook, and you're into that modern technology now. You post a lot of these great pictures that you had in the past.
And that's
really
fun
cool.
to go back and look at those. And some people say, well, what are you going to put on there next? And they say they were surprised that I was even into Facebook. But I am. I like modern technology. I like the idea of looking at what people's pictures, what they've done this last week, and see your stuff.
Sometimes I don't think we embrace the past enough, and that's one of the reasons we have the Leemore Locker Room, and we like to have the Facebook and the old pictures, because learning from the past, knowing what existed before, helps you going forward in the future. And sometimes I think we forget about the Catfish Hunters, the Jimmy Hunters, and all the great athletes, even the ones who never went pro, but some of the great athletes who went through here through the years, and the great coaches and the great people. It's knowing your local history is a good thing.
It is, and again, the people, whether they were at East Carolina, whether they were in the Atlantic Coast Conference, we covered the ACC on the Writers Tours for many years, and so we had the opportunity to meet a lot of the ACC coaches and work with them. But no, you know, I think back now, and I think those are the happy times in your life, this television station, to see how it became the leader. When we first came here, I know some of the guys used to jokingly say, listen, you guys don't have to go on the air tonight. Here's a quarter, call you 2 viewers. And really, we were like 4th in a 3-station market, you know, and then to see this station in 1985, when we became #1 for the first time, and Bill Jenkins was a manager, and they called us in his office and said, sorry, and then it was just all a show, because then we went back in the office, and they were cheering and balloons and everything, and I'm sure that there are people here, Carolyn Stevens, she well remembers those days. And that was so important to us, you know, to gain some notoriety and in that direction. But you know what? The good people in Jacksonville, Kinston, Moorhead, Greenville, and all those places, they've always supported this station in so many ways, and so I'm grateful to all those folks.
We are thankful to the fans. We're thankful to you. People still ask about you all the time, and so we're happy to finally get a chance to catch up with you here on set, and happy to have your name memorialized in the Leemore Locker Room for as long as they let us keep the set. You know how things are with TV sometimes. So
exactly right. No, that's great. I'm honored. I'm thrilled, and so is my family. My grandson Michael said I watched just so I could see that. So that's great. I appreciate it.
Leemore, everybody.
Thank you, pal.
Thank you.